The rain hammered against my garage door like an angry ex-wife demanding alimony. 3 a.m, and I was elbow-deep in the engine of my '67 Mustang, trying to forget that Cambria hadn't come home again. "Working late at the office," she'd texted. Right. Like Porter Kellor's law firm operated on vampire hours. I'm Felix Rourde, and I used to believe my wife when she lied to me. Used to think her sudden interest in overtime meant she was climbing the corporate ladder. Used to think a lot of things that made me the biggest fool in Carrick Bay. The wrench slipped in my greasy fingers as headlights swept across the garage windows. Not Cambria's BMW. This was something sleek and foreign. The engine purred to a stop and I heard heels clicking on wet pavement. Great. Just what I needed at 3 a.m. A knock echoed through the garage, sharp, insistent, like everything else that had gone wrong in my life lately. "We're closed," I called out, not looking up from the carburetor. "Felix Rourde?" The voice was female, cultured, with an edge that could cut glass. "I'm Aven Bardell. We need to talk." Bardell. The name hit me like a cold slap. Porter Kellor's wife. I'd seen her at the firm's Christmas party. Tall, elegant, with ice blue eyes that missed nothing. What the hell was she doing in my garage? I wiped my hands on a rag and opened the side door. She stood there in a black coat, rain dripping from her perfectly styled blonde hair. Even soaked, she looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, the kind Cambria read obsessively. "Mrs. Bardell, bit late for a social call, isn't it?" Her smile was sharp enough to perform surgery. "My husband's working late. With your wife. Again." She stepped past me into the garage without invitation. "Nice car. '67 Mustang. My father had one just like it. Look, if this is about... Get your keys." She turned those ice blue eyes on me. "We're going for a drive." Something in her tone made my spine straighten. This wasn't a request. "Where exactly are we going?" "To see what our spouses do when they think we're sleeping." The smart play would have been to send her away, pretend I didn't know what she was talking about. But I'd been playing it smart for months, ignoring the signs, making excuses, the late nights, the new clothes, the way Cambria looked at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. Let me grab my jacket. The drive downtown took 20 minutes. Aven sat in the passenger seat, directing me through empty streets with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. The rain kept coming, turning the city into a noir film where everyone was guilty of something. "How long have you known?" I asked as we pulled into the parking garage beneath Porter's building. 3 months. Maybe longer. Porter thinks he's clever, but he leaves trails like breadcrumbs. She checked her phone. "They're up there now. 42nd floor. Corner office with the view." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to drive away, pretend this conversation never happened. But the other part, the part that had been growing stronger every time Cambria came home smelling like expensive cologne, wanted to see the truth. "What's your plan here, Mrs. Bardell?" "Aven. And the plan is simple. We go up there, we document what we find, and then we make them pay." She pulled out her phone. "I've already disabled the security cameras on the 42nd floor. Funny what you can accomplish with the right connections." The elevator ride felt like descending into hell if hell had Muzak and smelled like industrial carpet cleaner. Aven stood beside me, calm as a surgeon preparing for an operation. I felt like I was about to throw up. "You don't seem surprised by any of this," I said. "I stopped being surprised by Porter's behavior years ago. The only surprise is that it took your wife this long to make her move. She's been circling him like a shark since she started working there." The elevator dinged softly as we reached the 42nd floor. The hallway stretched ahead of us, dimly lit by emergency lighting. Porter's office was at the end, and I could see light spilling from under the door. "Last chance to back out," Aven whispered. I thought about Cambria's smile when she told me she'd be working late, the way she'd kissed my cheek like I was her brother instead of her husband. the credit card statements I wasn't supposed to see, showing charges at restaurants I'd never been to. No, let's do this. Aven produced a key card from her purse. Porter's so trusting, leaves this lying around the house like a bookmark. The lock clicked open with a soft beep. Aven pushed the door slowly, and we stepped into Porter's outer office. His secretary's desk was neat and empty, computer screen dark. Beyond that, light and sound came from the inner office. Cambria's laugh, low and intimate, the way she used to laugh with me. Aven held up her phone, camera ready. She moved like a cat, silent and purposeful. I followed, my heart hammering against my ribs. The inner office door was cracked open. Through the gap, I could see Porter's desk, the massive mahogany thing he was so proud of. And on it, my wife. My beautiful, ambitious, lying wife, with her skirt hiked up and her blouse unbuttoned, wrapped around Porter Kellor like he was the last life preserver on the Titanic. "Oh, Porter," she breathed, "you make me feel so alive." That's when Aven kicked the door open. The scene froze like a photograph. Cambria's eyes went wide, her mouth forming a perfect O of shock. Porter scrambled backward, nearly falling off the desk, his shirt hanging open and his face flushed with guilt and panic. "Evening, darling," Aven said sweetly, her phone camera clicking rapidly. "Don't mind us. We're just documenting your extracurricular activities." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Cambria tried to pull her skirt down, her face cycling through shock, embarrassment, and finally landing on defiance. "Felix, this isn't what it looks like." I stepped into the office, feeling strangely calm. "Really? Because it looks like you're screwing your boss on his desk at 3 a.m. "We were just working late," I finished. "Yeah, I can see that. Very thorough work ethic, Cambria. Really going above and beyond." Porter finally found his voice. "Now look here, Rourde." "No, you look." I stepped closer, close enough to smell my wife's perfume on his skin. "You look at what you've done to my marriage. You look at what she's thrown away for a quick tumble with the boss." Aven continued taking pictures, her phone capturing every angle of their humiliation. These should look lovely in the divorce proceedings, and the Bar Association review, and the company newsletter. "You can't," Porter started. "Oh, but I can." Aven's smile was arctic. "Adultery is still grounds for divorce in Maine, and last I checked, sleeping with subordinates was against firm policy. Isn't that right, Porter?" Cambria finally managed to stand, smoothing her skirt with shaking hands. "Felix, please. We can work this out. It was a mistake. The only mistake was me believing you for so long." I pulled a manila envelope from my jacket. "Divorce papers, already filed. You'll want to get yourself a lawyer. Someone other than Porter, obviously, since he'll be busy with his own problems." I dropped the envelope on the desk where they'd been tangled together moments before. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. "This is ridiculous," Cambria said, but her voice cracked. "You can't just watch me." I turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Cambria? I changed the locks. Your stuff will be in storage by morning. The address is in the papers." As we walked back toward the elevator, I could hear them arguing behind us. Porter's voice rising in panic, Cambria's turning shrill with desperation. The sound followed us down the hallway like smoke from a burning building. "Feel better?" Aven asked as the elevator doors closed. "Ask me tomorrow." I looked at her. "What happens now?" "Now? Now we make sure they understand that actions have consequences." She scrolled through the photos on her phone. "Porter's been untouchable for too long. Time for that to change." The elevator descended through the floors, carrying us away from the wreckage of my marriage and toward whatever came next. Outside, the storm was finally breaking, but inside me, something else was just beginning. Some days you're the windshield, I thought. Some days you're the bug. Today, Cambria, you're both. The locksmith arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, just as I'd requested. Jerry Kowalski, I'd known him since high school, back when we both thought we'd conquer the world with nothing but attitude and determination. He'd ended up with his own business and a reputation for discretion. I'd ended up married to a woman who thought fidelity was optional. "Rough night?" Jerry asked, noting my appearance. I hadn't bothered to shower or change clothes after the office confrontation. "Getting rougher by the hour." I handed him a cup of coffee. "How long for the whole house?" 2 hours, maybe 3. Front door, back door, garage, and the sliding door to the deck." He sipped the coffee and nodded approvingly. "You want the fancy electronic ones or just good solid mechanical?" "Mechanical. And Jerry, if anyone asks, I was never here." He grinned. "This about Cambria?" Word traveled fast in Carrick Bay, especially when it involved someone as visible as my wife. Cambria had made sure everyone knew she was climbing the social ladder, attending every charity function and networking event in town. The fall was going to be spectacular. Let's just say I'm making some security improvements. My phone buzzed with a text from Gage Morrison, my oldest friend and the closest thing I had to a brother. "Coffee? Heard you had an interesting night." I texted back. "Mariner's Knot. 1 hour." The Mariner's Knot sat on the waterfront like a barnacle on a ship's hull, weathered, stubborn, and impossible to remove. It was the kind of place where fishermen drank their breakfast and office workers pretended to be tough guys. Perfect for conversations you didn't want overheard. Gage was already there when I arrived, nursing a beer despite the early hour. He looked like what he was, a construction foreman who'd earned every line on his face through honest work and honest mistakes. His company had done the renovation on Porter's penthouse 2 years ago. Ironic, considering. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting. "Feel worse." I ordered coffee from Rita, the bartender who'd been serving drinks here since the Carter administration. "What did you hear?" "Enough. Cambria and the lawyer caught in the act. Aven Bardell involved somehow." He took a long pull from his beer. "Question is, what are you going to do about it?" "Already started. Changed the locks, filed the papers. Aven's got enough photos to wallpaper the courthouse. That's the legal stuff. I'm talking about the personal stuff, the satisfaction stuff." Rita brought my coffee and discreetly moved to the other end of the bar. She'd been listening to men's troubles for 40 years. She knew when to give privacy. "I'm not looking for trouble, Gage. Trouble's already found you, brother. Question is whether you're going to lie down and take it or stand up and fight back." My phone rang. Cambria's ringtone, some pop song she'd insisted on downloading. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. "She's persistent," Gage observed. "She's panicked." I turned off the phone. "Good. You know Porter's got that fancy penthouse apartment, the one my crew worked on. Real nice place, top floor, private elevator, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay." "Your point?" "No point. Just mentioning it. Also mentioning that the building's security is mostly for show. Cameras in the lobby, but the upper floors rely on keycard access. And sometimes, when you're doing construction, you end up with extra keycards. Sometimes those cards don't get turned in when the job's done." He pulled a plastic card from his wallet and slid it across the table. "Hypothetically speaking." I stared at the card. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Whatever feels right. Porter thinks he's untouchable up there in his tower. Might be educational for him to learn otherwise. This is breaking and entering. Only if you get caught. And only if you actually break something. Entering, on the other hand." He shrugged. "That's just visiting." I pocketed the card before I could think too hard about it. Hypothetically. Of course. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification, then another. Cambria was working herself into a panic, which meant she was finally understanding the gravity of her situation. Good. Let her sweat. "There's something else," Gage said. "About Porter. You know he's married, right? To Aven? Yeah, I figured that out. What you might not know is that Aven's got money. Real money. Her family owns half the commercial real estate in town. Porter married up, way up. If she divorces him, he loses everything. So? So maybe you and Aven have more in common than you think? Maybe there's an opportunity for cooperation. The idea had merit. Aven had been calm and focused during our midnight adventure, like she'd been planning for this moment, and she clearly had resources I lacked. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. Word's going to get out about last night. Once it does, Porter and Cambria will start doing damage control. Better to stay ahead of them. I finished my coffee and stood to leave. Thanks for the advice, and the hypothetical keycard. Anytime, brother. Just remember, sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves. You just have to give them the opportunity. The drive home took me past Porter's building, a gleaming tower of glass and steel that dominated the downtown skyline. Somewhere up there was the penthouse where Porter entertained his conquests, where he probably took Cambria to make her feel special and sophisticated. The key card felt heavy in my pocket. Back at the house, Jerry was finishing up with the last lock. All set, he announced. New keys, new codes, new everything. Nobody's getting in here without your permission. What do I owe you? On the house. Consider it a divorce present. He packed up his tools. Felix, whatever you're planning, be smart about it. Cambria's not worth going to jail over. I'm not planning anything. Right. Just remember what I said. After Jerry left, I walked through the house that had been our home for 8 years. Cambria's presence was everywhere. Her magazines on the coffee table, her expensive shoes by the front door, her collection of self-help books promising to unlock the secrets of success and happiness. All lies, like everything else about our marriage. I started gathering her things methodically. Clothes from the closet, toiletries from the bathroom, jewelry from the dresser. Each item felt like evidence of my own blindness. How had I not seen what was happening? How had I missed the signs? The answer was simple. I'd trusted her. I'd believed in us. I'd been faithful and honest and stupid. Never again. My phone rang. This time it was an unknown number. Felix, it's Aven. We need to meet. I'm listening. Not over the phone. There are things you need to know about Porter, about what he's planning. Where? The old pier. End of Harbor Street. 1 hour. The line went quiet. I stared at the phone, wondering what I was getting myself into. Then I looked around at the house full of Cambria's things, at the life we'd built on lies and false promises, and I knew it didn't matter. I was already in too deep to turn back now. The old pier stretched into Carrick Bay like a arthritic finger, its weathered planks groaning under the weight of decades and neglect. Fog rolled in from the Atlantic, turning the world gray and muffled. Perfect weather for clandestine meetings and questionable decisions. Aven was already there when I arrived, standing at the pier's end like a figure from a dream. She'd changed from her midnight attire into jeans and a leather jacket, but she still looked like she belonged on a magazine cover rather than a rotting dock. You came, she said without turning around. You made it sound urgent. It is. She faced me, and I could see the strain in her eyes despite her composed exterior. Porter's not taking last night well. He's making calls, pulling strings, trying to contain the damage. What kind of calls? The kind that involve private investigators and expensive lawyers. He thinks he can discredit us, make it look like we orchestrated some kind of setup. The fog swirled around us, carrying the scent of salt and seaweed. Somewhere in the distance, a foghorn moaned like a wounded animal. Did we? Her smile was sharp. Does it matter? The truth is what we can prove, and right now we have photos, witnesses, and a very clear timeline of events. What do you want from me, Aven? Partnership. Porter has resources, connections, money. But he also has weaknesses, and your wife. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Cambria is ambitious but not particularly bright. She's going to make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that desperate people make when they're trying to save themselves. Aven pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. She's already started. Social media posts about working late, about dedication to her job, trying to establish a pattern of innocent behavior. I studied the posts. Cambria had always been obsessed with her online image, crafting a perfect life for public consumption. Now she was trying to rewrite history in real time. She's covering her tracks. Badly. Look at the timestamps. She posted about another late night at the office at 11 p.m. last night. We have photos of her with Porter at 3 a.m. Either she works very strange hours, or she's lying. She's lying. Of course she is. The question is how we use that against her. A seagull landed on the pier railing, eyeing us with predatory interest. I thought about the key card in my pocket, about Gage's suggestion of visiting Porter's penthouse. I might have access to Porter's apartment, I said carefully. Aven's eyebrows rose. Interesting. How? I told her about Gage and the construction job, about the key card that had supposedly never been returned. She listened without interruption, her expression thoughtful. That could be useful, she said when I finished. Porter keeps files at home, personal things he doesn't want at the office. If we could access those. You're talking about breaking the law. I'm talking about gathering information. Porter's broken laws, too. Adultery is still a crime in Maine, technically, and there are bar association rules about relationships with subordinates. The fog was getting thicker, reducing visibility to maybe 20 feet. We were alone in a gray world, conspirators planning in the mist. What exactly are you proposing? A coordinated effort. You handle the personal side. Cambria, her friends, her social circle. I'll handle the professional side, Porter's career, his reputation, his money. And then? Then we make them both understand that actions have consequences. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Felix, please call me. We need to talk. Cambria. I showed it to Aven. She got a new phone. Or she's borrowing one. Probably doesn't want to face you directly. Aven studied the message. This is good. It means she's scared. Should I respond? Not yet. Let her sweat. Desperation makes people careless. Another text arrived. I know you're angry, but this can be fixed. Please don't do anything rash. Then another. Porter means nothing to me. It was a mistake. She's spiraling, Aven observed. This is exactly what I expected. You sound like you know her pretty well. I know her type. Ambitious, image-conscious, used to getting what she wants through charm and manipulation. When that stops working, they panic. A fourth text. Felix, please answer me. We can work this out. I turned off the phone. What's your plan for Porter? Porter's weakness is his ego. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else, more sophisticated, more deserving. He's built his entire identity around being successful and untouchable. So we touch him. Exactly. We show him that he's not as protected as he thinks. We make him understand that his actions have put everything he values at risk. The fog was so thick now that the shoreline had disappeared entirely. We were floating in a gray void, two conspirators planning the downfall of our respective spouses. There's something else, Aven said, about Porter's apartment. He doesn't just take women there. He records them. The words hit me like a physical blow. Records them? Video, audio. He thinks it's insurance, protection against accusations or blackmail. He has no idea that it makes him vulnerable to the same tactics. Are you saying there are recordings of Cambria? I'm saying it's possible. And if there are, they would be very damaging to both of them. I thought about my wife, about her ambition and her vanity, about how she'd react to knowing such recordings might exist. The humiliation would destroy her. How do you know about this? Because I've been planning this for months, Felix. Porter isn't the only one who keeps insurance policies. She pulled out another phone, not the one she'd been using earlier. This one was older, more basic. Burner phone, untraceable. I've been documenting Porter's activities for quite some time. The affair with Cambria was just the latest in a long series of betrayals. Why now? Why not earlier? Because I needed the right partner. Someone with motivation, someone Porter had wronged directly, someone like you. Another text came through on my regular phone. This one was different. Felix, this is Zoe, Cambria's friend. She's really upset. Can we meet? She needs your help. I showed it to Aven. Zoe Chen, Cambria's best friend and biggest enabler. The social media influencer? Perfect. She'll be trying to manage Cambria's image, spin the narrative. That gives us another angle to work. Which is? Zoe lives and breathes online reputation. Her entire income depends on maintaining her influence and credibility. If she gets caught up in a scandal, she loses everything. Exactly. And Cambria loses her biggest supporter. The fog was starting to lift slightly, revealing the ghostly outlines of boats in the harbor. Our clandestine meeting was coming to an end. So what's the next step? Aven handed me a business card. It was blank except for a phone number. This is how you reach me. Secure line, no records. When you're ready to visit Porter's apartment, call me. I'll make sure he's occupied elsewhere. And Cambria? Keep ignoring her. Let her panic build. Desperate people make mistakes, and we want her making as many as possible. I pocketed the card along with the key card from Gage. Aven? Why are you doing this? Why not just divorce Porter quietly and move on? Her smile was cold as the fog around us. Because Porter destroyed something I valued. He humiliated me, betrayed me, and thought he could get away with it because of his money and connections. What did he destroy? My trust, my faith in marriage, my belief that some people could be honorable. She turned to walk away, then paused. He's going to learn that some things can't be bought or charmed or manipulated. Some things have to be earned. And if he can't be, then he'll lose everything that matters to him, just like he cost me everything that mattered to me. She disappeared into the fog, leaving me alone on the pier with my thoughts and my plans. The harbor was quiet, except for the gentle lapping of waves against the pilings and the distant sound of traffic from the mainland. My phone buzzed again. More texts from Cambria, increasingly desperate and incoherent. I didn't read them. Instead, I thought about the key card in my pocket and the recordings that might be waiting in Porter's penthouse. Some doors, once opened, could never be closed again. But then again, some marriages, once broken, could never be repaired either. I walked back toward shore, leaving the fog and the pier behind. It was time to see what Porter Kellor kept hidden in his tower above the city. Porter's building rose 30 stories above downtown Carrick Bay, all glass and steel ambition reaching toward the gray sky. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor, accessible only by private elevator or emergency stairs. I'd chosen the stairs. 29 flights gave me plenty of time to reconsider what I was doing. Breaking into someone's home was a felony, regardless of what they'd done to deserve it. But with each step upward, I thought about Cambria's lies, her betrayal, the way she'd looked at me like I was an inconvenience to be managed rather than a husband to be loved. By the time I reached the top floor, my doubts had crystallized into cold determination. The stairwell door opened onto a small vestibule with a single apartment entrance. Gage's keycard worked perfectly, the lock disengaging with a soft click that sounded thunderous in the silence. Porter's penthouse was everything I'd expected and more. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the bay, expensive furniture arranged with magazine precision, artwork that probably cost more than I made in a year. It was the home of a man who'd convinced himself that money could buy happiness, respect, and immunity from consequences. He was about to learn otherwise. I'd called Aven before coming up, using the number on the blank business card. She'd confirmed that Porter was in court all afternoon, arguing a case that would keep him occupied until at least 6 p.m. That gave me 3 hours to explore his sanctuary and find whatever secrets he kept hidden from the world. The main living area was spotless, almost sterile in its perfection. No family photos, no personal touches, nothing that spoke to relationships or emotional connections. The kitchen looked unused, the dining room like a showroom display. This wasn't a home. It was a stage set designed to impress visitors and intimidate rivals. The master bedroom was where things got interesting. A king-sized bed dominated the space, positioned to take advantage of the view. But it was the wall-mounted television and the equipment cabinet beneath it that caught my attention. Professional-grade video equipment, digital recording devices, and a collection of unmarked storage drives. My stomach turned as I realized what I was looking at. Aven had been right about the recordings. The computer setup was password protected, but Porter had made the classic mistake of writing his passwords down and hiding them in his desk drawer. Apparently, being a successful attorney didn't make you smart about digital security. The files were organized by date and initials. I found CR easily enough, Cambria Rourde. There were 6 files spanning the last 3 months, each representing a different encounter in this very room. I didn't watch them. I didn't need to see my wife's betrayal in high definition. Instead, I copied everything to a flash drive, along with files marked with other initials. Porter had been busy, documenting his conquests like a hunter collecting trophies. The irony was perfect. He'd created these recordings as insurance against potential accusers, but they actually proved his pattern of predatory behavior. Any divorce attorney would have a field day with this evidence. My phone vibrated. Text from Aven. "Status?" I texted back. "Found what we discussed. More than expected." "How much more?" "Enough to end his career." "Good. Finish up. Porter just called his secretary. He might be leaving court early." I pocketed the flash drive and took one last look around the bedroom. On the nightstand, I noticed a leather journal. Porter's handwriting filled the pages. Thoughts, observations, and detailed accounts of his various affairs. The entry about Cambria made my hands shake with rage. C is exactly what I expected, desperate for validation, willing to do anything to feel sophisticated and important. She actually believes I might leave Aven for her. The delusion is almost charming. She's useful for now, but becoming clingy. May need to end things soon. I photographed the relevant pages, then continued reading. Porter had written similar assessments of other women, treating them like objects to be used and discarded. The man was a predator, pure and simple. Another text from Aven. "Leave now. Porter just left the courthouse." I closed the journal and headed for the door, but something made me pause. Porter's arrogance, his certainty that he was untouchable, deserved a response. He needed to know that his sanctuary had been violated, that his secrets were no longer safe. I left a single playing card on his pillow, the King of Spades. No message, no explanation. Just a symbol that someone had been there, someone who knew his secrets and wasn't afraid to act on that knowledge. The descent down 29 flights of stairs was faster than the climb up, adrenaline and urgency driving me downward. I exited through the building's rear entrance, just another pedestrian on a busy street. My phone rang as I reached my car. Cambria's new number. "Felix, please don't hang up. I know you're angry, but we need to talk." Her voice was strained, desperate. "Good. There's nothing to talk about, Cambria. The lawyers can handle everything from here." "That's not true. We can fix this. What happened with Porter, it was a mistake, a moment of weakness." "A moment? Try 3 months of moments. I've seen the evidence." Silence on the other end. Then, "What evidence?" "Does it matter?" "You were caught. It's over." "Felix, please, I love you. I've always loved you. Porter means nothing to me." The lie came so easily, so smoothly, that I almost admired her skill. Almost. Funny. That's not what your social media posts suggest. All those late nights at the office, all that dedication to your career. Very convincing performance. You're checking my social media? I'm checking everything, Cambria. Your posts, your credit card statements, your text messages. Amazing what you can discover when you actually pay attention. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, less pleading, more calculating. What do you want? Money? The house? I can make this worth your while. I want you out of my life. Permanently. You don't mean that. Watch me. I hung up and immediately called Aven using the secure number. How did it go? She asked. Better than expected. Porter's been documenting everything. Video, audio, written records. He's created enough evidence to destroy himself. Excellent. And Cambria? Just called me. She's moving from denial to bargaining. How long before she reaches anger? Not long, especially once she realizes what we have. Where are you now? Driving home. What's our next move? We let them sweat for a day or two. Let them wonder what we know and what we're planning. Uncertainty breeds panic, and panic breeds mistakes. What about the recordings? Do we turn them over to the police? Eventually. But first, we use them to apply pressure. Porter needs to understand that his career, his marriage, and his reputation are all hanging by a thread. I thought about the journal entry, about Porter's casual dismissal of my wife as a useful but temporary diversion. Aven? There's something else. Porter's been keeping a journal. He wrote about Cambria, about how he planned to dump her once she became inconvenient. Really? That's perfect. Cambria's ego won't be able to handle that kind of dismissal. Should I tell her? Not yet. Save it for when we need maximum impact. I was pulling into my driveway when I noticed the car parked across the street. A black sedan with tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that screamed private investigator to anyone who'd watched a crime show. Aven, I think Porter's having me watched. Expected. He's trying to build a case that you're stalking him or harassing him. Just go about your normal routine. Don't give him anything to use against you. What about you? I'm untouchable. Porter can't move against me without exposing his own vulnerabilities. But you need to be careful. I parked in my garage and watched the sedan in my rearview mirror. The occupant was taking photos, documenting my arrival home. Porter was playing defense, trying to control the narrative. Too bad for him that I was just getting started. Inside the house, I uploaded the flash drive contents to a secure cloud server, making multiple backups. The recordings were disturbing, but damning, clear evidence of Porter's predatory behavior and Cambria's willing participation in her own humiliation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Zoe. Cambria really needs to talk to you. She's not doing well. I ignored it. Cambria's mental state wasn't my problem anymore. Another text, this one from Cambria herself. I know you're home. I can see the lights. Please let me in. We need to fix this. I looked out the front window. She was sitting in her BMW across the street, probably watching the house, waiting for some sign of weakness or forgiveness. She was going to be waiting a very long time. The evening news was just starting when my doorbell rang. I ignored it. It rang again, followed by knocking, then pounding. Felix, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Cambria's voice, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Perfect. Let everyone see how desperate she'd become. The pounding continued for several minutes before finally stopping. I heard her car start and drive away, but I knew she'd be back. Desperate people don't give up easily. My phone rang. Aven's secure line. I heard about your visitor, she said. Word travels fast. In a town this size? Everything travels fast. How are you holding up? Better than expected. What about Porter? He found your calling card. He's not happy. Good. Let him wonder what else I might have left behind. Felix, be careful. Porter's dangerous when he's cornered. He has resources and connections, and he's not above using them. I'll watch my back. Make sure you do. We've come too far to let him turn the tables now. After we hung up, I sat in my living room, looking out at the street where the private investigator was still parked, still watching. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new confrontations, new opportunities to make Porter and Cambria pay for their betrayal. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of my own life. It was a good feeling. I intended to make it last. The Carrick Bay Seafood Festival was the social event of the summer, drawing thousands of visitors to the waterfront for 3 days of lobster rolls, craft beer, and small-town charm. It was also the perfect place for a public confrontation, which is exactly what Porter and Cambria were planning. I knew because Dax Brennan had told me. Dax was a junior associate at Porter's firm, fresh out of law school, and still naive enough to believe that justice mattered more than billable hours. He'd witnessed the aftermath of our midnight office visit and didn't like what he'd seen, particularly Porter's efforts to destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses. "They're planning something for Saturday," he'd told me during a chance encounter at the coffee shop. "Porter's been making calls, setting up some kind of confrontation. He wants witnesses, wants to make you look unstable or threatening." "What kind of confrontation?" "I don't know the details, but he's been coaching Cambria on what to say, how to act. They want to provoke you into doing something stupid." That conversation had been 2 days ago. Now, walking through the festival crowd with Gage and his brother-in-law Mick, I was ready for whatever Porter had planned. The waterfront was packed with families enjoying the perfect summer day. Children ran between the vendor booths while their parents sampled local delicacies and browsed handmade crafts. The air smelled of fried clams and salt spray, punctuated by the sounds of laughter and live music from the main stage. "There," Mick pointed toward the beer garden. "Your wife and her boyfriend, holding court like they own the place." Porter and Cambria sat at a prime table near the stage, surrounded by members of Carrick Bay's social elite. Porter was dressed in his casual rich uniform, khakis and a polo shirt that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Cambria wore a sundress that showed off her figure while maintaining an air of respectability. They looked like the perfect couple, successful and attractive and completely at ease with their place in the world. The sight made my stomach turn. "Easy, brother," Gage said, noticing my expression. "Remember the plan. Stay calm, stay smart, and let them make the first move." We found our own table across the beer garden, close enough to observe but far enough to avoid immediate confrontation. Gage ordered a round of local IPA, while Mick positioned himself to record whatever was about to happen. "Showtime," Mick said, nodding toward the entrance. Aven Bardell had arrived, looking stunning in white linen that contrasted beautifully with her blonde hair. She moved through the crowd with the confidence of someone who belonged everywhere and feared nothing. Several people recognized her. The Bardell family name carried weight in Carrick Bay, and she accepted their greetings with gracious smiles. She didn't acknowledge Porter or Cambria, but I could see the tension in her posture as she passed their table. Porter's face went pale when he spotted her, while Cambria's expression shifted from smugness to uncertainty. "Phase 1 complete," I murmured to Gage. "Aven's presence changes the dynamic. Porter can't play the wronged husband when his actual wife is here." "Look at Cambria," Mick observed. "She's realizing she's not the only woman in Porter's life." Indeed, Cambria was studying Aven with the intensity of a jeweler examining a diamond for flaws. The comparison wasn't favorable. Aven was everything Cambria aspired to be, with the additional advantages of breeding, money, and genuine class. My phone buzzed. Text from Aven. "Porter's getting nervous. He keeps checking his watch and looking toward the exit." I texted back, "Let him sweat. They'll make their move soon." The festival continued around us, families and couples enjoying the summer afternoon while we played our elaborate game of psychological chess. The irony wasn't lost on me. Surrounded by celebration and community, we were orchestrating the destruction of 2 marriages and possibly 2 careers. "Incoming," Gage said quietly. Zoe Chen was approaching our table, her phone held high as she live-streamed her walk through the festival. Her social media presence had made her a local celebrity of sorts, and she played the part with practiced enthusiasm. "Felix!" she called out, loud enough to attract attention. "How wonderful to see you here. Are you enjoying the festival?" The question was innocent enough, but her tone was performative, designed for her online audience rather than genuine conversation. She was creating content, building a narrative. "It's a beautiful day for it," I replied neutrally. "And how are you doing? I know things have been difficult lately." There it was, the setup. She was trying to get me to discuss my marriage problems on camera, probably hoping I'd say something that could be used against me later. "I'm doing fine, thanks. Enjoying the festival with friends." "That's wonderful. You know, Cambria's here too. Maybe you two could—" "I don't think that's a good idea," I interrupted. "Oh, but she's really hoping to talk to you. She's been so worried, so upset about the misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding, Zoe. And I'd prefer not to discuss private matters on your live stream." Her smile faltered slightly. "Of course I understand, but maybe you should focus on the festival instead of other people's personal business." The comment was mild, but it carried enough edge to make her step back. Her online persona was built on access to drama and insider information. Being shut down publicly, on her own live stream, was a professional embarrassment. "Well," she said, trying to recover, "I hope you have a lovely day." She moved away, but I could see her talking rapidly to her phone, probably spinning the encounter for her audience. Within minutes, she'd rejoined Porter and Cambria's table, leaning in for an animated conversation. "Strike one," Mick said. "They sent the influencer to provoke you, and you shut her down without taking the bait." "What's strike two going to be?" Gage asked. We didn't have to wait long to find out. A festival security guard approached our table, looking uncomfortable with his assignment. "Excuse me, are you Felix Rourde?" "Yes." "I've had a complaint that you've been bothering some of the other festival goers, taking pictures without permission, making people uncomfortable." I looked around the crowded beer garden. "I've been sitting here for an hour, drinking beer with my friends. Haven't taken any pictures. Haven't bothered anyone." "Well, the complaint is fabricated." Aven's voice cut through the conversation like a blade. She'd appeared beside our table with the silent grace of a hunting cat. "I've been watching Mr. Rourde for the past hour. He hasn't moved from this table or interacted with anyone except his friends and the server." The security guard looked confused. "Ma'am, I'm just following up on a complaint." "Filed by whom?" "I can't really say." "Of course you can. Public event, public complaint. Who made the accusation?" The guard glanced toward Porter's table, then back at Aven. "Look, maybe there was a misunderstanding." "There was. Someone filed a false complaint hoping to cause trouble for Mr. Rourde, that someone should be asked to leave the festival for harassment." The guard's radio crackled with a call about an actual disturbance near the main stage. He looked relieved to have an excuse to leave. "Just try to enjoy the festival peacefully, okay?" After he left, Aven slid into the empty chair at our table. "Strike two," she said. "Porter's getting desperate." "What's strike three going to be?" I asked. "Direct confrontation. He can't help himself. His ego won't let him walk away from a fight, especially with an audience watching." She was right. Within minutes, Porter was standing, saying something to Cambria that made her shake her head vigorously. But he was already moving, crossing the beer garden with the determined stride of a man convinced of his own righteousness. "Felix." He stopped beside our table, hands on his hips in a pose of aggressive confidence. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. This harassment has to stop. The private investigator, the break-ins, the stalking. I haven't broken into anything or stalked anyone, and the private investigator is yours, not mine. Don't lie to me. I know you were in my apartment. I know you've been following Cambria." "Actually," Aven interrupted, "Felix was with me when someone visited your apartment. We were having coffee, discussing our respective divorce proceedings. Weren't we, Felix? That's right. 2 hours at the Riverside Cafe. I'm sure they have security cameras if you need proof. Porter's face flushed red. You're both lying. Are we? Prove it. Aven's voice was silk over steel. Show everyone the evidence of this alleged harassment. Present your case. A crowd was gathering, drawn by the raised voices and obvious tension. Phones were coming out, recording the confrontation. This was exactly what Porter had wanted, a public scene with witnesses, but it wasn't going according to his script. I don't need to prove anything to you, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then why are you here? Why the public confrontation? Aven stood, facing him directly. Could it be because you're trying to deflect attention from your own behavior, your affair with a subordinate, your violation of bar association ethics? That's enough, Porter snapped. Is it? Because I have evidence, Porter. Video evidence, audio recordings, documentation of your predatory behavior with multiple women. Should we discuss that here, in front of all these people? The crowd was getting larger, sensing drama. Porter looked around at the faces surrounding him, realizing that his plan had backfired completely. Instead of making me look unstable, he'd walked into a trap that exposed his own vulnerabilities. This isn't over, he said, backing away. No, Aven agreed. It's not. But it's going to end exactly the way you deserve. Porter retreated to his table, where Cambria was waiting with an expression of growing panic. They had a brief, heated conversation before gathering their things and leaving the festival entirely. Strike 3, Gage said as we watched them go. Game over. But I knew it wasn't over. Porter's public humiliation would only make him more dangerous, more desperate, and desperate people were capable of anything. The real game was just beginning. The call came at midnight, 3 days after the festival confrontation. Porter's voice, slurred with alcohol and desperation, crackled through my phone speaker. You think you've won? Don't you, Rourde? You think you've destroyed me? I'd been expecting this call, or something like it. Cornered animals were predictable in their unpredictability. They lashed out, made mistakes, revealed their true nature. Porter, you sound upset. Upset? He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The Bar Association is reviewing my license. My partners are talking about suspension. Aven's divorce attorney is demanding everything. The house, the investments, the boat. Everything I've worked for. Actions have consequences. You should have thought about that before you started recording women without their consent. Those recordings were insurance. Those recordings were felonies. Multiple felonies. The district attorney is very interested in them. Silence on the other end, broken only by the sound of ice clinking in a glass. Porter was drinking heavily, which meant his judgment was compromised. Dangerous, but also useful. What do you want? He asked finally. I want you to leave town. Tonight. Disappear, start over somewhere else, and never contact me or Cambria again. And if I don't? Then tomorrow morning, every news outlet in Maine gets copies of your recordings, your journal entries, and the financial records showing how you've been embezzling from client accounts. Another silence, longer this time. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your email. I'd sent him a preview, just enough evidence to prove I wasn't making empty threats. Financial irregularities going back 3 years, client funds diverted to personal accounts, a pattern of theft that would put him in prison for decades. His sharp intake of breath told me he'd opened the files. How did you? Your password security is terrible, Porter. Really, writing them down and leaving them in your desk drawer? Amateur hour. Those files are protected. We're protected. Past tense. Amazing what you can accomplish with the right motivation and a few hours of uninterrupted access. The line went quiet, except for Porter's labored breathing. I could practically hear him calculating odds, weighing options, realizing that his carefully constructed life was collapsing around him. This is extortion. This is justice. You had your fun, Porter. You played your games, hurt people, thought you were untouchable. Now you get to face the consequences. And Cambria, what happens to her? That's between her and me. I hung up and immediately called Aven on the secure line. He took the bait, I reported, made contact, confirmed he's desperate enough to try something stupid. Good. Everything's in place on my end. Porter's assets are frozen, his law license is under review, and the criminal investigation is moving forward. What about the financial irregularities? Those were the final nail in the coffin. Porter's been stealing from clients for years, thinking he was too smart to get caught. The evidence you gathered will put him away for a very long time. I walked to my front window and looked out at the street. The private investigator's sedan was gone, had been for 2 days now. Porter couldn't afford surveillance anymore. There's something else, Aven continued. Cambria's been trying to contact me. She wants to meet, says she has information about Porter that could be useful. She's trying to save herself. Of course she is. The question is whether we let her. I thought about my wife, about the 8 years we'd spent together, the dreams we'd shared, the future we'd planned. All of it built on lies and false promises, but it had felt real at the time. What kind of information? She wouldn't say over the phone, but she sounded scared, Felix, really scared. Good, she should be. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Cambria, using yet another number. Felix, I know you hate me, but I need your help. Porter is planning something terrible. Please call me. I showed the message to Aven when she arrived 20 minutes later. She'd driven over immediately after our phone conversation, bringing coffee and a grim expression. She's not wrong, Aven said after reading the text. Porter's been making calls all evening. Private security firms, people who specialize in making problems disappear. What kind of problems? The kind that involve you and me. Porter's decided that if he's going down, he's taking us with him. We sat in my kitchen, drinking coffee and planning for what might be Porter's final desperate move. Outside, Carrick Bay slept peacefully, unaware that its most prominent attorney was contemplating actions that would destroy what remained of his life. What's his play? I asked. He's going to try to frame us for the break-in at his apartment. He's got security footage from the lobby, witness statements placing us together at various times, evidence that we've been coordinating against him. Can he make it stick? Maybe. Depends on how good his remaining connections are, how much money he can throw at the problem before his assets are completely frozen. My phone rang. Cambria again. Answer it, Aven said. Let's hear what she has to say. I put the call on speaker. What do you want, Cambria? Felix, thank God. Listen to me. Porter's lost his mind. He's talking about hiring people to hurt you, to hurt Aven. He blames you for everything that's happened. And you're just now developing a conscience? I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But Porter's dangerous when he's cornered. He's not the man I thought he was. What man did you think he was? Silence. Then quietly. Someone who loved me. Someone who would leave his wife for me, build a life with me. I was so stupid. Yes, you were. Felix, please, whatever you think of me, Aven doesn't deserve to get hurt because of my mistakes. I looked at Aven, who nodded slightly. Where are you now, Cambria? At the Seaside Motel, room 12. Porter doesn't know I'm here. I took his journal, his backup drives, everything I could find. I'll give it all to you if you'll just help me get out of town safely. Why should I trust you? Because I'm scared, Felix. Really scared. And because despite everything I've done, I still love you. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire that had burned out long ago. Too little, too late, but perhaps useful nonetheless. We'll be there in an hour, I said. Thank you. And Felix, I'm sorry. For everything. After I hung up, Aven and I sat in silence for several minutes, processing what we'd heard. It could be a trap, she said finally. Probably is. But if she really has Porter's backup files, his journal, we could end this tonight. Completely. Or walk into an ambush. Only one way to find out. The seaside motel sat on the edge of town like a relic from a different era, its neon sign flickering weakly against the night sky. Room 12 was on the ground floor, curtains drawn, a sliver of light visible beneath the door. I knocked softly. "Cambria, it's Felix." The door opened immediately, revealing my wife in a way I'd never seen her before. No makeup, hair disheveled, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt instead of her usual designer clothes. She looked younger somehow, more vulnerable, more like the woman I'd fallen in love with years ago. "You came," she said, relief evident in her voice. "Where's the evidence?" She gestured to the bed, where Porter's leather journal lay open beside 2 external hard drives and a stack of documents. Everything I could find. Financial records, client files, personal notes. He kept it all. Aven moved to examine the materials, while I watched Cambria pace nervously around the small room. "This is everything?" Aven asked. "Everything I could carry. There's more at his apartment, but I was afraid to stay longer." "Why now, Cambria? Why help us?" She stopped pacing and looked directly at me. "Because I read his journal. I saw what he really thought of me, how he planned to use me and throw me away. I was just another conquest to him, another trophy for his collection." "And that surprised you?" "Yes, it did. I thought he cared about me. I thought what we had was special." The naivety was almost heartbreaking. Almost. "Felix," Aven said from the bed, "you need to see this." She was holding a document, a contract with a private security firm. The terms were explicit: surveillance, intimidation, and if necessary, permanent problem resolution. "He's hired professionals," Aven continued. "They're supposed to make contact tomorrow night." "Make contact how?" "However necessary to ensure our silence and cooperation." Cambria had gone pale. "He told me it was just surveillance. He said he needed to protect himself from false accusations." "There's more," Aven said, flipping through the journal. "Porter's been planning this for weeks. He knew we had evidence against him, so he decided to eliminate the threat." My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Rourde, we need to meet, tonight. Come alone to the old pier. You have something that belongs to our client." I showed the message to Aven and Cambria. "They work fast." "You can't go," Cambria said immediately. "It's too dangerous." "She's right," Aven agreed. "This is exactly what Porter wants, to isolate you, make you vulnerable." "Then what do you suggest?" Aven was already pulling out her phone. "I suggest we end this once and for all. Porter wants to play hardball? Fine. Let's show him what hardball really looks like." She made 3 calls in rapid succession, to the police, to the FBI field office in Portland, and to a contact at the local news station. Within minutes, the seaside motel was about to become the center of a media circus. "What did you do?" I asked. "I gave them everything. The recordings, the financial crimes, the hired muscle, all of it. Porter's about to discover that some games have rules and some rules have consequences." Sirens were already audible in the distance, growing closer by the minute. Through the motel room window, I could see cars pulling into the parking lot, police, federal agents, news crews with cameras and bright lights. "It's over," Aven said simply. But as we waited for the authorities to take our statements and collect the evidence, I realized she was wrong. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The beginning of Porter's downfall, of Cambria's reckoning, of my own journey back to a life built on truth instead of lies. Outside, the sirens grew louder, and the night filled with flashing lights. Inside room 12 of the seaside motel, 3 people sat surrounded by the wreckage of 2 marriages and 2 lives, waiting for justice to finally arrive. Some debts can only be paid in full. Some victories taste sweetest when they're earned through patience and planning, rather than anger and impulse. Tonight, in a cheap motel room with my estranged wife and my unlikely ally, I learned the difference between revenge and justice. Justice was watching Porter Kellor's carefully constructed world collapse under the weight of his own crimes. Revenge was knowing that I had helped make it happen. The rain had started again, drumming against the motel windows like applause. In the distance, thunder rolled across Carrick Bay, and lightning illuminated the storm clouds gathering over the town. Some storms pass quickly, leaving only puddles and memories. Others change the landscape forever. As the first police officer knocked on our door, I knew which kind of storm this was going to be.